Hey, I'm Dr. Dwan, and I am a relationship guru. Whoop whoop. I have a PhD in psychology, and I just do my thing as a life coach. I'm also a TV personality where I do true crime. So you may have seen me on shows like For My Man, and then I'm doing more shows. So you'll see me on other networks too. But
That's what
that's
today
what
was
my
about,
main
right?
one. Yes, that's what today is about. So
Okay.
yeah, so exciting things going on. But that's pretty much it.
Well, I wish you nothing but the best in your endeavor with that.
Thank
So,
you.
why don't we jump into our topic? And today's topic can be a bit controversial, to be
Of
to be
course.
frank.
Yes.
But I think we've got to be real and honest, right? And,
Hmm.
and and that's what we do on the show. We're always
Real and
honest.
honest. Yes.
So, why do men get married?
That is the $1 million question. I mean, let's just put it like this. There have been times when women can stay with a man for, 10 years or more, have kids with him, live with him, everything, and he never marries her. Then he goes to the next woman and marries her like right away. And then it's
Mm,
like, wait, what? They didn't even know each other 6 months. And why did he marry her? That's the question. Well, sometimes men take for granted the woman that they love, and so much has happened that by the time he's ready to get married, he probably can't marry that woman because he's done so much to the main woman, and he felt like maybe feels like he has so much like history and baggage with her now that he's hurt or cheated on her, things like that, and she's pretty much kind of tired of him. And a lot of times it's just kind of these guys get married just kind of for the woman that is there when they're ready to do it. So it's not necessarily that they're so in love with the other woman. It's just they're ready to settle down and she's there during that time period. But I will
right.
say this because, there are a lot of men out there who marry the woman they love. They fall in love and they marry that woman and live, a normal existence. So it's not always that situation. So
Sure.
I want to say some men get married, there's any number of reasons. I mean, for one, I'll go down a few of them. For one, sometimes men do marry the woman that is different, that they just like, hey, I fell in love with her and it was what it was. She made me feel differently, so he'll
Hmm.
marry her. Or it could
Hmm.
just be, his career is finally where he wants it to be. He might have been dating someone, like if a guy was in med school, he might have been dating a woman in med school, but could not stick with her and give her the time and devotion and everything during that time period. But after he finishes med school, now it's like, okay, I'm in my career, I'm financially set, so now I'm ready to get married. See what I mean?
Right.
So it
Yeah.
doesn't mean he didn't love the long-term, long-suffering girlfriend. It just means the timing wasn't quite right for that, where he was in his life.
Right.
And sometimes guys just have to get it all out. You don't want to hear it like, the guy's in his 20s and 30s and he's buck wild and, doing everything under the sun and doing everybody under the sun. And then when he's 50, 60 years old, he's like, you know what? I think I want to get married. It's just like, oh, okay, when you have nothing left, but but that happens. Sometimes they just get tired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like too tired to go out, too tired to keep doing stuff, and now they're homebodies, and
Right.
that is what it is.
So yeah, you're right. Men in their 20s,
Yeah,
they're discovering sex for the first time,
pretty much.
and they want to try it out. They want to
Exactly. With as
try it
many
out
people as will let
with as many
them.
women as possible, all
Right.
shapes and sizes, and they want to just see what it's like. They want to
Exactly.
experiment.
Yes. So it's all of that. It's a whole lot of things. If you ask guys like, why did they get married, they'll tell you any number of things. Some guys, I knew a guy who was like a serial marriage guy, so to speak, like literally would get married. Like he got a girl pregnant in high school and he was
Hmm.
raised up that if you get a girl pregnant, you get married, right? But he cheated on her all the time and they were teenagers. They were like 18 when they got married, both really too young, and had a baby and everything. And then they ended up getting divorced, and he got with the second girl. When he met her, she already had kids, like 3 kids already, and he happened to be the baby daddy number 4. And he married her because he got her pregnant, cheated on her all day long, all day strong. Years later, divorced her, got married to another woman who's, successful, accomplished. She's an attorney, he's a surgeon, the whole bit, married her because she got pregnant. And, he's like, well, I'm on wife number 3, so I really wanted to work. I don't want to keep getting divorced. But he still got the same pattern of being unfaithful. So, but his is deeper because it's kind of like mother issues. Like he didn't have a good relationship with his mom and didn't have a lot of respect for women. So he was lashing out, acting out in other ways. But if you ask him why he got married, every time he'd say it's because, she was pregnant. That was his reason for getting married. In other words, if a woman hadn't got pregnant, he never would have gotten married. And these girls get pregnant by him and marry him and think it'll be different, but it's just a repeat of the same old thing because he didn't get his underlying issues resolved.
Right. So in his mind, he thinks he's doing the right thing by marrying her because it's the noble thing to do.
There you go. But then you cheat on her the whole time and break her heart, and you still end up getting divorced. So that's not quite as noble.
So men have other considerations when they're thinking about marriage, right?
For sure.
I just want to throw a couple of them by you. So
yes.
And so sometimes men marry their mother, or in their minds, maybe in their subconscious mind, they're marrying their mother. They want someone at home to cook for them, to raise their children. They see that as a role that's necessary in their life, and they want to marry that person, but there doesn't leave a lot of room for love. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, a perfect example of that, look at Prince Charles when he married Princess Diana.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone was like, she was the people's princess. She's Princess Diana. Look at Prince Charles in comparison. And he wasn't in love with her when he married her. He was in love with Camilla. But Camilla wasn't acceptable, for the palace and everything. Camilla was this woman who'd been around and she was worldly and, all of this. And the family was like, no, Camilla's not representing this family. And he married a more suitable, appropriate person for the business purposes. But at the end of the day, we know that he never stopped seeing Camilla. And, he's married to Camilla now. And she was the love of his life, which goes back to sometimes the woman that the man loves may not always be the woman that is appropriate by society standards or his family standards. Those things really do happen. So what about now? You talked about the doctor who's going through med school and he finally finishes with med school. He's ready to start his career, start his family, and maybe he's looking for that power woman to create a power couple. Yes.
How often do you see that kind of situation?
Oh my gosh, we see that as a society all the time. I mean, you can look at people who have power couple dynamics like Bill and Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's a power couple created. That's not a romance type situation. That's I want to be here, you help me get there, that kind of thing. And we support each other no matter what, because it's an arrangement, So business, sometimes, marriage can be considered like a business in a lot of regards. And a lot of people treat it like that it's a business arrangement. I mean, there's so many different types of marriages, especially the men and women that you see. A lot of times you think things are traditional but a lot of times people don't realize that the guy could be gay and the woman could be gay, and they're married being each other's cover for career purposes, and
what are you suggesting?
It happens. That happens.
What are you suggesting about Bill and Hillary?
Oh no, not them. I'm not saying that part. But it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon at all for, because then it's just if you know that publicly you have to have this persona, but then privately, and if you just really take a look sometimes at couples who they have the one partner is always cheating and getting caught, and the partner never leaves. You have this husband who's out there just, sleeping with so many different women and all this kind of stuff. And the wife is there by his side, and people think, oh, she's long suffering. You might need to reevaluate that, because sometimes women are not really caring about who he's having sex with as long as he's not having sex with them, because they're not into him in that way, in a sexual way, but they're into him in all the other ways, like, you know, he's my husband, he's the father of my children, he's, you know, a good guy, he's a provider, he's this, that, and the other, but I don't want to have sex with him. I would rather have sex with another female. So as long as, I don't care who he has sex with, and they don't care publicly how embarrassing, you know, it is when he gets caught, or, you know, any of that, because behind closed doors, they know what it is.
So what about the guy who just wants an arm candy?
We got those too. A lot of those. But I mean, that's very shallow, but it does happen. I mean, but that's really more for a guy whose ego is fragile, like a guy who really doesn't feel like he's got a whole lot of other things, redeeming qualities. So he feels like the material things, the things on the outside of him define him, instead of being built up on who he is on the inside. I mean, there are guys like that. I mean, we see them all the time. I mean, look at Kanye, you know, with the choices of women he's dated, you know, total arm candy and things like that, you know, and then it's like once they kind of want to do anything deeper or different outside of that box, then it's not really appreciated. It's kind of like, you know, yeah.
So
but a lot of guys are okay with the arm candy.
Yeah. And the card has to go with it. We're talking about why men get married. So if you guys have any questions or comments that you want to make, please put them in the comment section so that we can so Dr. Abrams can get to them. What about men who, you know, look at it as a sort of a financial decision? You know, if you're going to marry, you have two incomes, you know, it's going to be a lot better to have two incomes versus one trying to pay for all the bills and rent, so on and so forth.
Right. I mean, again, business, you know, you have to think, am I marrying this person because of logical reasons, or am I marrying this person because of like emotional things, like because I really want to be with this person, you know? But if you are doing it for business reasons, you know, that there's a saying that says just as easy to marry a rich man as it is a poor one, you know, and then sometimes people will say things like, you know, if I have to deal with a guy in his mess or whatever, some women think that all the guys cheat anyway. So it's like, so I might as well, if I'm going to get dogged, I might as well be by somebody who's got something, you know, so when it doesn't work out, then, you know, you have something when you leave. You know, people think about all this stuff, and guys, you know, guys think about stuff too. You know, they do want their life to be, you know, easier in a lot of ways with the woman who has something going for herself, who can make things a little easier for him, you know. So I mean, contrary to popular belief, like with the song Walk Out right now, it's about a whole lot more than the WAP.
We've got a question for you, Doctor. What red flags would you advise women to look for?
What red flags, like in a relationship wise? Like red flags, there's a lot to look forward to. Basically, when you're dating a guy and you have questions about him, some of the things are to find out when they say about a relationship with a guy's mother. That's really important. Find out what that relationship is like, because if he's a mama's boy, you're going to have a set of issues. But if he's a guy who has animosity toward his mother, like if she was abusive or any of that, his first emotional reaction to something is going to be to fly off the handle. So he's more subject to be more emotionally unstable. So check the relationship with the mother. And then if he has like children and he's never been married, how many children does he have, and how many babies' mothers does he have? And I would implore you not to become another baby's mama, because that's what you'd become if you just step in line and do that. You know, there's plenty of beautiful women out there who learn the hard way. They think, you know, I know he's got 3 kids with 3 different mothers, but I'll be different. And then they have the baby, and then they're just baby mama number 4 and heartbroken. You know, so you just really have to just pay attention more to how he acts more than what he says, because a man will say, oh, I love you, you know, but what is he doing? Is he standing you up? You know, is he not taking your calls? Is he dishonest? If you catch a man lying, that's a flag. You know, if you can't go to his house because he's probably got somebody living there, a wife or a girlfriend or fiance or something, that's a flag. If a guy has kids that he doesn't tell you he has and he knows he has them, that's a flag. Just look for any deception. Thank you. Yeah, look for the signs. I mean, and don't be so caught up with how he looks or the sweet things he may say, look for all of the real well-rounded person. Look at all of it. Like, how does he treat me? Does he call when he says he's going to call? Does he come by when he says he's going to come by? All of those things. And if God tells you he's not interested in getting married, or he just wants to be friends, believe those things. Don't try to change that. Like, don't think, oh, well, I'll convince him. No, you don't need to be with somebody you have to convince. Be with somebody that already readily wants to do what you want to do.
Okay, we've got another question.
What's the best age for a man to get married? Oh, that's subjective. It's subjective.
15?
No, actually, what I would say is if you can get him out of his 20s, safely out of his 20s, and get him to around 30, about maybe like early 30s, about 35 is like a really sweet spot. But if you can get him between like 32 to 35, then you're doing something that you can pretty much think he's more mature, more stable, more whatever, because by then he should be kind of done with a lot of the stuff he wants to do, like kind of like if he's done with school, done with, settled into his career more, able to establish some credit, have his own car, have his own place, these types of things, he should by that age. Do you believe that women are more mature than men and should look for older men? Ooh, that is a delicious question. Well, I do believe that most women are more mature than men, and I will say that the older man thing can be a catch-22 because it depends on how old you are at the time. I mean, I was in the military when I was like 18, and when I was 19, I had a boyfriend that was 34. My dad had a fit. He was like, you will not marry him. Don't even think about it, because right now that's not a big deal. But when you get to be 35, that'll be a huge deal because the men stuff tend to go down with age and, all of this. And I'm so glad I listened to him. So after that, I started dealing within like a 5 to 6 year window of older, so I think 5 to 6 years is a very sensible thing. But there's things that people do, like all kinds of little tricks that they'll say, that it can be up to this point. It's like your age and something else. I'd have to tell you later about the ratio, but it comes up to like if they're beyond this, then it's too young for you or something. But that could be like 17-year age difference or something. So it really just depends on how old the woman is and how, like, what she's got going on in her life. I definitely, because you're still trying to find yourself, I definitely would say you could be a mature 18-year-old girl and dating, a guy that's 26 or something. You could be, but then here's the flip side of that is he could be molding you. He could try to mold you to be something, and you don't know yourself well enough yet to even know like what you like, what you don't like, what to accept, what not to accept. So it's really depends on your own maturity level as a woman. Not just I think I'm mature, but being mature and then going from there.
That's an R. Kelly moment there.
See? Right. So it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to, digress too much with that. But just really just making sure that if he's an older guy, it can be appealing because if you're young and he's older and he's got like, a good career, he's got a car, he's got a lot of things you don't have. But what I would recommend is get to know yourself first. And then worry about, the dating aspect, somebody older or whatever. But don't get with somebody older just to take care of you. Get with them because it's compatible, because you still have a lot of learning and growing to do.
Some women, I know we're talking about why men date, but some women look for the older guy because they have daddy issues, right?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's another thing, when you are a young lady and you have unresolved daddy issues, surprisingly, most women do, though. Most women do have daddy issues. So it's a catch-22, but that I would just say do the work through it. And if you know what they are, address them. This one is, how can you tell if a man has real ambition? Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, you don't marry a man for potential. Don't marry his potential, because potential is not realized and probably never will be. Don't marry the potential. What you marry is, if he has ambition, this is how you will know. Instead of him saying to you, one day I want to be a millionaire, I want to have a lot of money. What he'll say to you is, I'm starting this business and this is my 5-year plan. This is what I plan to do, blah, blah, blah. This is how we're going to do this. And, I took some business classes, or I majored in business, or whatever he did, to go and let you know he's serious. Just like if he wants to become a doctor or a lawyer, it can't be something that one day. It has to be, I'm planning this now. I don't care if he's a high school senior. If he's applying to colleges and he's like, hey, I'm studying criminal justice when I go to school, that's what I'm majoring in because I want to go to law school. Then, okay, he's ambitious. He has a plan. He's not just willy-nilly, or if he's in undergrad and he's just like, I'm doing science. I'm a science major because I want to become a doctor. Okay, cool. So that's how you know if a guy has ambition. Is not what he says, is what he does. And remember, don't ever, ever fall for the potential. Oh, well, I want to be a rapper one day. Or, oh, I want to be this big actor one day. No, that's it's great if it happens, but you have to be in the real world. Okay, what are you doing in the meantime? My thoughts on prenuptial agreements. I think that you should get a prenuptial agreement. And the reason why I say that is because just because you don't have anything today doesn't mean you won't have anything in the future. Okay, so let's just say, hypothetically speaking, that you're a woman who you get married to a guy because you love him and, you got your own place, like whether it's your own house or your own apartment, condo, whatever it is, but he moves in with you. Okay, so you're taking on something where it's like, well, he didn't put anything into this, but you did. So you deserve to have your assets protected. And people have this misperception that you have to have like lots of money to get a prenup. No, you really don't. What you're just saying is if you have a child or something that you had and you want things to be allocated for your child or your children that no one can touch, that's what you're protecting. You're protecting your assets. That's what you're doing. You're just simply saying, I don't want to leave out of here worse than when I came in it. Whatever we build together, that's cool. But whatever I had before, I got responsibilities and I need to make sure that those are honored. So that's what you're doing with that. So prenuptial agreements are good. I don't care if you're 100 heir, 1,000 heir, $100,000 heir, or a millionaire or whatever. A prenup is a good idea and they're very affordable. You could draft one up yourself and just let a lawyer look it over. If you got that prepaid legal and stuff like that, they'll do those things up for you. But get it done.
Oh, wow. Great questions.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Abrams? We're talking about why men get married. We sort of got onto other topics as well. What about just, them coming from a situation where they feel like it's just what I should do? I have a mother and father at home, that's sort of the model. So
yes,
I'm going to go get married. I'm going to find this woman. She's got to be, the same religion. She's got to be this height. She's got to look this way, and you find that person and maybe there's not that connection, but she's perfect in the sense of what you're looking for. Right.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on that?
I know exactly what you mean. And in situations like that, I would not recommend it. And the reason why I would not recommend it is because you're talking about having chemistry with people. You're talking about just being attracted to someone. And sex is not everything in a relationship. Sex is probably realistically about 5% of the relationship. 95% is everything else. But I will tell you this, if the sex isn't good, the sex overshadows everything and it becomes about 95% of the relationship. And then everything else is 5%. Like you can't think well if the sex is terrible in a marriage.
So the more you talk about sex, the worse the relationship is? Is that what you're trying to say?
Pretty much.
The more you're talking about, if you're not talking about your sex life, really,
there you go. Exactly.
Everything's okay.
Yeah, like if you're not complaining about your sex, like if you and your spouse have like an attraction for each other, you have chemistry, and you're able to have sex with each other, you're less likely to, when it comes down to the leaving, like you have more of something to, when you have a disagreement or anything, you have something to work it through. You know what I mean? If you don't have the initial chemistry, even having kids with somebody is rough, because you're just like, I really don't even want to have sex with you, let alone make a baby with you. That's what I'm saying. So chemistry is important, as well as the other 50 million other things that come along with marriage, because it's difficult, and you do want to make sure that you get as much in common in terms of good things, as much like being compatible. Even if you're not compatible in terms of we disagree on a lot of things, that's fine. You're individuals, but being compatible, meaning we can be in each other's presence without going nuts. You know, we can make love to each other and be okay. We can have an argument, but we can resolve it. You know, that type of stuff. But just strictly marrying somebody because they look good on paper, no. Because when you find that other person that makes your heart flutter and gets you those little butterflies in your stomach and everything, then you'll wish that you know, had not done that. So my thoughts on arranged marriages, that is, oh my gosh, that's an excellent question. I will give a real life example. When I was an undergrad, I remember this guy from India. He was at my same university, and I remember him saying that he was studying to be an engineer, and he had to hurry up and get his degree because he could not get married to his girl back home without having a degree. And I thought, what? Like, are you serious? He had an arranged marriage, and he had to have a job before he could get married and support this woman. Now, this was like, it's one of those situations where it's, on the one hand, some stuff is really valued. Like, for example, imagine how great things would be if in the United States we said, hey, you can't marry my daughter unless you have a college degree and a job and a way to support her. Hands down, point blank, period. It's not going to happen. People would be so much more ambitious. They would get out there and make stuff happen. They would work hard. Like, that's a requirement. Like, that's an expectation. That's the standard. At bare bone minimum, go get you a bachelor's degree, go get you a career going, and then you can get married. That'd be fabulous. With arranged marriages, right. See, that's so common in different cultures. Absolutely. And so when you think about an arranged marriage, that means that it's usually for the benefit of a family. Like, okay, on the one hand, if your family is some whatever, then my family's over here, whatever. I don't have a problem with arranged marriages as long as the people that are being arranged are okay with each other. Like, for example, if you're marrying somebody because it's an arranged marriage, but one of them is homosexual or identifies in a different kind of way other than heterosexual, and they don't really want to be married, then that's problematic. So I would, in that type of situation, no. But if they're both just kind of like, we understand the common good here, we grew up together, our families are connected, you know, it's a vetting process. At least you know what your child is getting, because you know that family, you know where they come from, the parents, all that kind of stuff. And as long as they're not abusive or, anything like that, as long as it's not detrimental, then no, because the thing is, the love can grow. If the respect is there, the expectations are there, they can fall in love. Or there are many arranged marriages that have successfully worked because people can fall in love later. They can date while they're married and fall in love.
And that's a good point. And I was thinking, as you were talking about, again, other considerations that men think about when they're deciding to get married. And, we say she's the married. I can remember when I was much, much younger, and guys would talk, we talk about girls, and we put them in categories. Right. Who's the marrying type and who's not? I won't say what not is, and so. And the marrying type is not the person that we would want to gravitate toward at that time. We was like, oh no, she's the type you get married to. So we categorize women in that way. But when we're ready to get married, we want to then find that type. We think she makes a good mother. Maybe she cooks well. Right. Maybe the sex is good as well. That's like a plus. Yeah. Maybe she emulates all the things we want to see in a wife. And maybe eventually we think, I'm going to fall in love with her at some point because all the other qualities are there. What would you say to someone who thinks that way?
Well, it really depends on the individual. Everything depends on the individual. However, from my experience, though, what I will say is that typically situations like that, they don't really fare very well, simply because, for one, the guy has these preconceived notions. And I had a person that I spoke with before who literally said that her husband would not allow her to give him oral sex, refused, because he thought it was something that whores did. And he was like, my wife, no, no, no. But he was cheating on her with other women and letting them do those things because he had her like on a pedestal, like, no, you're not, I don't want you to do that. Like, just don't. Right. So sometimes you have to look at the hangups that people may have for why they act like they act, what their expectations are, why they do what they do. Because for that, like, she wanted to do that with him. She offered and he was like, no, don't do that. Like, no. Then I had another situation with a person who their guy didn't want her to do that, but it wasn't for the same reason. It wasn't because he was unfaithful. It was because he had been molested. And it reminded him of the molestation. So you have to pay attention to people's reasoning behind why they feel like they feel in intimate settings, because sometimes it's not even about what's happening then, it's what's happened before, and it sets them off. So when you think about a guy who's like, oh, she's perfect for being the mother of my children, she's perfect for this, and but are you sexually attracted to her? Do you find her desirable? Do you have this chemistry with her? Because if you don't, you may think she's this perfect epitome of something, but at the end of the day, your actions for how you treat her will make her go away, because she's not going to be as cuddled and caressed and, just felt being told how beautiful she is or anything, because you're looking at her like, oh, she keeps a clean house, she's good with these kids. But how is she for your wife, the woman that you want to go to bed with every night, that you wake up to, that you're kissing and touching and doing all the things that matter? You got to think about that.
And then too, is she getting what she wants out of a relationship because you're not emotionally connected and invested?
Exactly. You hit the nail right on the head. You're not emotionally invested. So yeah, you're not going to be able to give her everything she wants. You might provide and give a house and, pay some bills and, be the father of her children. But how are you treating her? Because there's a lot of lonely people in marriages, a lot of lonely women who go to bed at night with a guy who won't even touch them. And you always hear the stories about, oh, these guys, all they want to do is have sex. There's a whole lot of guys who are not having sex with their wives, who don't even have an interest in having sex with their wives, but refuse to divorce them. And then when you mentioned about the parents, like seeing your parents as a role model, there's a lot of people that have guilt with that. Like a lot of people don't even want to be in traditional marriages or anything, but they get the guilt. Like, my mom and dad were married for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, and that's what it's supposed to look like. And they try to emulate that, and it may not be for them. So. And
you might be getting pressure from mom to get married, right?
Exactly.
When you get married and giving her some grandchildren,
right. Absolutely.
Because she's trying to continue the traditions, right?
There you go. Traditions. Yeah. And we can get in trouble with some traditions, okay? We can get in trouble with some traditions. That traditional, rolls on some stuff, it can get you in trouble. You have what I encourage couples to do is to do what works for them. Forget about all of this is what other people, in society are supposed to think, this is what's supposed to be. No, do what works for your family in your house. It is like, if your husband cooks and you don't, and he loves to cook, let him cook. If that kind of stuff, it's like there shouldn't be these defined, just traditional, oh, I gotta, cook and clean and do laundry and iron the clothes, and he's gotta, go to work every day and do this, that, and the third. Do what works for you guys. I'm not saying about the not going to work part now. We all need to go to work. If I gotta get up and go to work, you gotta get up and go to work.
Wait a minute.
Right. If I'm going to work,
that's where you draw the line, huh?
Right.
You got to go to work.
We all got to have a job now. We all got to have a career, okay? We all got to do something to bring some money here. Okay. Do you see the younger generation shifting away from tradition? I definitely know that they want what their parents have, what they've always seen, but they're having a harder time finding it. So to say, are they fallen away from tradition? No, I think that they just aren't really having the same opportunities to find people in that way. Like, for example, of course now we're in quarantine, but even before then, it's very difficult for ladies to find like guys that are suitable and like-minded. in a lot of regards. But I know some young people who, I know young people who've been married a couple of times, like literally married, like on their second marriage, and they're like under the age of 35, so marriage is not what's out. It just really depends. Look at Cardi B and Offset. They're young, they're successful, they got married though, and they had a baby, and things tore them apart, but at the end of the day they still went down a traditional path. They didn't have to not.
Yeah.
Sierra and her husband, there's a lot of people that are married and want the family. They want that. It's just a matter of finding it with the right person.
I was looking at a stat not too long ago. It said 70% of people who get divorced remarry.
Oh yeah, definitely. In fact, it's easier once you've been married and divorced, it's easier to get married again. The odds of you getting married a second or even a third time are greater than someone who's never been married. And that could be the problem too, that there's a lot of people who've never been married, and then the people that have been married before just get married again to other people. And so, that lessens the dating pool as well. But yeah, that's a big part of some things. But when you come to talk about traditional things, then the flip side too, when you say younger people, are they like not as traditional? I think that they want some traditional things, but I don't think that they want you telling them how to be. One thing that I've noticed is that they're more sexually free and sexually fluid. Like, even though, previous generations still had sex, they did their stuff, they did whatever. This generation is kind of more like, yeah, we have threesomes. Yeah, my wife is more bisexual than she is, whatever. I don't care if my wife has a girlfriend, there are things like that. I think they're more like vocal about that, which makes people think, wow, what they got going on? Like, they're less traditional. But no, I think they want the traditional husband and wife and kids and house and a career and all of that. But I also think that they are more sexually liberated, more sexually fluid, more sexually free.
Got it. Well, that sounds like a topic for the next show.
Okay. That part, yes.
What are the implications of a sexually free society?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you would really be surprised, because in my profession, I have met so many couples who the wife is like, look, I was bisexual when I met him and he knew it. And, now he wants to, after we've had kids, he wants me not to be as much or whatever. And then those women are thinking about leaving them. But the guys who accept that their woman is how she is and they let her do her. And then
so let me understand something.
Yeah.
So if you marry a bisexual woman,
yes,
are you implicitly giving her the right to still not be faithful because she's bisexual? Because you knew she was bisexual going.
But see, this is how they do it. A lot of times what they do is they will not just exclusively be all excited, like, oh, okay, she's with this other woman, but they'll let her have it as long as he can participate. So that's their way around it. So that's why you see a lot of couples doing threesomes, because the wife is really bisexual, and the only way that the husband is really going to be able to keep having sex with her is if he allows a woman into the bedroom. And sometimes they do it without him, but at the end of the day, if you invite them in to be a part of a threesome, is it cheating? Because now all of you guys are doing it and it's consensual, right?
Well, that's a very fluid word these days, right? Cheating. What does that really mean?
Right, exactly. It's like,
it's all relative.
That's subjective. Exactly. It's all relative. And it's pretty funny because you would really be amazed at how many people, like, sometimes I look at celebrities and I have like some inside information into some of their relationships, and I think, wow, people really only knew, how things are. They would be floored. Like, I know a couple who, the wife is bisexual and the husband, he cheats around or whatever, but the wife doesn't care, because she's just like, as long as she can still, do her thing, it's okay, because she can't be mad at him for dealing with other women, because she deals with other women, and then there's another like high profile couple where the husband told his wife that he's not interested in sex at all. Like, he has zero interest in having sex and gives her like full permission to go out and have sex with whomever she chooses. And he takes full care of her, totally loves her, totally just been married to her for a long time. And, you know,
Wow.
and allows
And you
her
can't
to
tell
do
us
that.
who these couples are.
I wish I could, but I cannot. You know, I mean, I really know.
All right. So,
My reason in bringing that up is because it's a lot that goes into relationships when people are trying to define it for themselves.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. We are here with.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say.
I was just going to say we're here with Dr. Dwan Abrams.
Right. Yeah, that's an OMG moment. Like, I see that. No, you just, the thing is, so many things happen in people's relationships that would surprise you that you really just cannot, when you, like a lot of times if I see like a couple and the guy is like, oh, that's my queen, I love her, da da da. The first thing that goes through my mind is he's cheated on her before. Either he's cheating now or he's cheated before. And, you know, honest to goodness, it's just like, because it's a flag. Like if you've been in a relationship with someone and you've been married, I don't care how much you love that person, whatever, on any given day, it's a choice to love them. It's a choice to like them. It's a choice to stay there. And, you know, if you're real about it, it's not a fairy tale. You're not going to wake up every day like, oh, this is my such and such and such. You know, you have these ideas, but when life starts happening, it's totally, totally different. So when I hear the guys say that stuff, I mean, I just flat out, I mean, one guy was moping around like on a vacation and he was like, oh, I miss my wife, I'm da da da. And immediately I had a sidebar conversation with him. I was like, you guys been through some things, right? He was like, yeah, you know, I cheated on her years back. And I was like, of course you did. That's why you're putting on this extra grand show right now, acting like the world's coming to an end because your wife is not here. And, you know, so you just really have to read between the lines. A lot of times we get so caught up in the presentation of what people are showing us on the outside that we're like, oh, that couple is, you know, everything, or that couple is this, or I wish I had that. And their stuff is usually not what you really think. You wouldn't be able to be in that, you know, like Dr. Phil has this quote that he said, and I always adhere to it. He said, if you marry for money, you will earn every penny. Okay. So yeah, it is like you put up with some things, you know, for that money, you know, to be with somebody like that, even if they're, you know, treating you like crap and cheating on you all the time and being abusive and everything. But that money, it is like, you know, it blinds a lot of people. Like they will put up with a whole bunch of stuff over that, you know, just for a guy with some money. So it just really depends. It's to each its own. But yeah, but relationships are complicated. And if anybody is single and they're trying to think that it's going to be, you know, oh, we're just going to have sex all the time and I'm cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner and it's blah, blah. If that is what you think, don't get married, because you will be sorely disappointed. You'll become quickly disillusioned and you will hate everything about it because you're marrying a fairy tale instead of real life.
Right.
Marriage is not a fairy tale. It is real life. Mm-hmm.
You know what I would say, Dr. Dwan? Love is dependence.
Yes. Elaborate, because it is, but elaborate what you mean by that.
What I mean is that you have to be able to depend on that person emotionally.
Yes.
Financially.
Yes.
Spiritually.
Absolutely.
In all those sorts of ways.
Yes.
And the moment you stop depending on that person,
yep,
you start picking them off one by one, you start falling out of love.
Oh my gosh, that was very profound and so real, so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Yeah, you are so right about that. Because you really do. Yeah. And when I hear a lot of people that talk to like the opposite sex about their spouse, and they share things that really they shouldn't share, like intimate things. And it's like, why are you doing that? Because something's missing in that relationship. You're looking for something. You're searching for something. And if you're going outside of your house to get it, you'll find it. You'll find what you're looking for. You think,
Always.
you'll find it, because you put out these vibes like it's not all happy over here, it's not all good over here, and he's not doing this or she's not doing that, then that other person's just soaking it all up, just waiting for that opportunity when they can just jump right on in and do their thing.
So I'm a little concerned by one thing you said. I know we got to wrap up here.
Yes.
There's an 18-year difference between my wife and myself.
You or her?
Well, she's younger.
Okay. I mean, because it's not just a given. There's a lot of women older than that dude. Okay, yes.
So is there any hope for us?
Come on, absolutely.
I'm joking.
Yeah, definitely. No, there's nothing wrong with like age gaps like that when you're mature. I mean, seriously, like, like if you like, I don't know how old you are, but let's just say, hypothetically speaking, if
I know the OJ, so.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's just say, like, if your wife was 30 years old or something, she would be at a place where it's like, oh, thank you. Okay, so so she would be at a place of maturity where she can handle it better. Now, if she was like 17, 18, 19 years old, then I would say, oh, you might need to be concerned, because once she grows and gets to know herself, then women do change, because then they're just like, they're like, I've been having this same thing for all this time, but who am I? And it's like you can lose yourself, like what in your identity, like lose yourself, but then you want to find yourself, and that's when it becomes something. But as a seasoned, mature woman, no, you don't have to worry about all that.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I'm going to sleep better tonight. So.
Okay. That was good.
All right. Any other questions for Dr. Dwan Abrams, the relationship and infidelity guru?
Whoop whoop.
Always a fan favorite when you on the show. So
thank you. That's sweet. I
I
appreciate it. You guys, I like the engagement and the participation. Thank you for that.
And thanks again I know it's been a long day for you, and you jumped on anyway, and you're a trooper.
Thank you.
You could have canceled easily, but you didn't, so I appreciate it.
No, I definitely wouldn't do you like that. Thank you, guys. Do you have a book? I do have some books. I want you to, like, if you go on Amazon, my name's Dwan, D-W-A-N, Abrams, and I do have books. Like, I have a book, Married Strangers, Divorcing the Devil, books like that. They're touching on relationship stuff. But yeah, any of them. If you just Google my name on Amazon, you can find all of my books. Dwan Abrams, D-W-A-N, Abrams.
I'm sorry I interrupted. I gave you a book idea. How's it going?
Actually, it's going great. Thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, let me know when you get the book, what you think, that kind of stuff. Yeah, so definitely I do have books available. And my website is dwanabrams.tv.
Excellent. All right.
Thank you. You guys have a good one.
Thanks,
you.
Doctor.
All right.
We'll see you next time, okay?
Thank you. Absolutely. Have a great night and great show. I appreciate you so much.
Likewise. Take care.
All right. Good night.